Hello everyone. I'm Suhas Dixit. I'm founder and CEO of APChemi. We come in the category of small and medium enterprises, and we work with a lot of small and medium enterprises as well for accelerating carbon capture and sequestration as well as plastic circularity. So this by the end of this presentation, I intend to communicate my views on how decarbonization can be unlocked in synergies with small and medium enterprises. So let's dive into it. The first slide, I want to show you a very clear statement that is based on a lot of research that I have done. By the end of the presentation, I'll also give you the link of this. I've written an article on LinkedIn, so that if you can go through that article to get much more detailed data on the presentation that goes here. So the statement is that the path to industrial decarbonization holds a critical yet often overlooked truth. Small and medium enterprises generate 60 to 70% of global industrial emissions, while global corporates command headlines with billion-dollar green initiatives. The real key in accelerating industrial decarbonization lies in enabling SMEs as well as building synergies of these SMEs with global corporates for developing and scaling up sustainable decarbonization solutions. So what we are understanding here is that 70% of global carbon footprint is from small and medium enterprises, and global corporates have only 30% to do with the global carbon footprint. And this has to make us think, if you see the leading organizations globally on, say, decarbonization, which is Alliance for Industry Decarbonization, AFID. Most of the member companies are global corporates, which come in this 30%, not in the 70%. So probably there should be some organizations that represent SMEs, some chamber of commerce for SMEs, or somebody who can represent the voice of SMEs should be there to find that balance again. Otherwise AFID would become all about global corporates that generate only 30% of the emission, while 70% is done by SMEs. Let's take another example. If you see member companies of Alliance to End Plastic Waste, Alliance to End Plastic Waste member companies are all corporates, while most of the plastic footprint is generated by small and medium enterprises. So again, there is a huge amount of disparity between who generates carbon as an emission that goes to the environment, or plastic waste that goes to the environment. A lot of importance is given to in media and all to large corporates, but really it is SMEs that generate a huge amount of emission as such. Now let's look at the another dimension of the situation. Average capital investment per project of global corporate is around $1.85 billion, and compare that to an average investment of capex per asset of small and medium enterprises, that is around $2.5 million. Now this red color is not even showing in this graph because it is so tiny. Now this data is based on analysis of 2000 largest non-financial companies versus typical SME projects, and this should make us think, like how much capital is available to a global corporate, and comparing it to how much capital is available for a typical small and medium enterprise as such. So let's take it step by step. Let's just understand that the access to capital as such, especially considering, if you have to embark on greenfield projects for decarbonization, large global corporate has much better access to capital compared to small and medium enterprises who generate actually 70% of global carbon footprint. So what we suggest I mean, this is an idea that we are exploring. Uh, and just with me, explore this idea for a moment. Let's consider the comparison of a conventional approach for funding, and let's compare it with a two-stage approach that we are proposing. So what is the difference between the conventional approach and the novel approach for funding that we are considering? Now, again, this approach is for funding the small and medium enterprises. This has nothing to do with global corporates that work at a very different level compared to the small and medium enterprises. So if you see SMEs, let us say there is particular amount of fund and that is going to support, let us say, 10 to 10 SME projects. Typical approach is that conduct a feasibility study, fund 10 SME projects, 100% of the project funding is given upfront. And typically SME projects, even if you consider the rate of success of startups as such, there's a 20% validated success rate as such. So if you fund 10 projects of SME scale, there is a chance that around 2 projects would become typically successful. And there's a limited geographical coverage that you can achieve when you fund 10 projects compared to the much larger number of projects that we would cover under the novel two-stage funding approach that we are proposing. So the first stage would be to fund I would like to stand corrected, not fund a feasibility study, but fund a de-risking capital. There's a difference between feasibility study and de-risking capital. So feasibility study is mostly desktop research for SMEs. For global corporates, the feasibility study can be something very detailed and practical, but for SMEs, feasibility study that goes to the bank is almost a desktop research. So the approach of initial funding has to be for de-risking, wherein rather than say 100% of funding getting released to the small and medium enterprises, say 10 SMEs, maybe 100 SMEs can be given 8 to 10% of initial de-risking capital. And after the entrepreneurs have enough funds for supporting their own salary for maybe 6 months, 12 months, plus couple of assistants or co-founders to work with the main founder, and they work on an idea, they do a pilot using this 8 to 15% capital and submit a de-risking report to a funding up organization. Then out of those 100 projects, probably 10 to 15 projects in second step should be funded by the funding organization. And this would lead to around 50 to 60% success rate. Again, this is validated based on a lot of data. If you go to my LinkedIn article, you will be able to find exactly how much of success rate is actually there. And then out of how based on the proven data, then with 60% of success rate, rather than 2 out of 10, you'll probably have 5 to 6 out of 10 successful projects. So the project funding for SMEs has to be two stage. One, de-risking capital, 8 to 15%, and then in the second stage, select fewer number of SMEs to fund the large scale investments. Another point to be noted is that if there is an experienced advisor that can reduce the de-risking capital requirement from 20% to 8%. So for example, at APChemi, we have full-fledged research and development facility with pyrolysis plant, fractional distillation plant, pyrolysis oil purification plant based on 15 patented technologies that we have developed. So entrepreneurs who want to work on plastic circularity or tire circularity or biomass to biochar based carbon capture, they don't have to invest in the R&D facility. They can plug into our R&D facility, conduct pilots, and we can help them on developing a financial model, developing samples for submission to global corporates as such of purified pyrolysis oil or biochar for decarbonization. And that kind of reduces the de-risking capital from 20% or 15% to 8%. So if there are advisors, that reduces the initial de-risking capital required by SMEs. Second point that we need to understand is that it is very necessary to create a synergy between small and medium enterprises and large corporate. For example, large corporates need to do carbon transition to biomass rather than crude oil. So small and medium enterprises can either aggregate biomass or convert biomass into biochar and convert that and supply that biochar to large corporates. So there is then that way synergy between SMEs as aggregator and converter and the global corporate as final user of biochar can be generated. Similarly, small and medium enterprises can collect plastic waste, convert it into purified pyrolysis oil, and that purified pyrolysis oil can be supplied to global refineries for production of circular plastics. Now, these are not ideas. We are already working on these ideas at a commercial scale with multiple ISCC plus certified plants. Coming to the last slide, please visit the LinkedIn article if you want to go into the details, but I want to just cover very quickly the basics of the difference between the conventional approach of funding SME projects and the two-stage approach, the novel approach that we are suggesting here. So typical funding approach the conventional funding approach does not consider two-stage funding, conventional ways whether to fund an SME or not fund an SME. That's the only decision. But the two-stage approach considers, fund 100 projects rather than 10 projects, fund 100 projects, 8 to 15% in the first stage. And in the second stage, shortlist those people, those SMEs who have done substantial good quality de-risking, and then fund them 100% of the project as such. And then when you do all of this, what you would find is that conventional approach of funding, which would be whether I would fund this SME project or not, would have 20% success rate. Compared to that, if you fund much larger number of SMEs for de-risking, and in the second stage, those SMEs who have shown very diligent efforts at de-risking fund only maybe 10 projects out of 100 for the rest of the project completion capital. There you would find that the success rate would go up from 20% to 50 to 60%. So this is what probably would help small and medium enterprises have higher success rate, higher chances of ensuring that decarbonization role that SME needs to play really happens. So as I said, I have written a detailed article. You can scan this code and this code will take you directly to that article. So thank you so much. I was given 8 minutes, but I have noticed that I have taken 14 minutes. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.